All right, so we're back here on another special Couch Coach Live, the final day of the month of June. We here. We got a special guest in the building. What's going on, my guy Gabriel? What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. You're good. How are you today? Thank you for having me on.
Yes, indeed, no problem, man. Everything's going good. The month of June is done. Get ready to usher in another month of July, and some good things going on. Definitely, I appreciate you coming on tonight. We're
Yeah,
here once again on a Wednesday under the lights here. We're also here, so definitely appreciate you for coming through this week. So without further ado, let's we'll get the podcast going momentarily. So we'll talk about the Hawks versus the Bucks game 4 recap. The latest news regarding Giannis. Also, we'll talk about little Scottie Pippen. We'll talk about Dame Lillard's future. And then we'll talk about the Pro Football Focus top 50 list. Way to get it right, way to get it wrong. We'll discuss that momentarily. What we're going to do, we'll keep that intro, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. And definitely huge shout out to our guy, Steven. Definitely appreciate that comment. And glad that you're back home and safe with your family. I never, it's funny. We out, when you hit the chat today, we were all like beaming like little kids, like our boys back home. So we definitely appreciate you coming, listening to us tonight, Steven, watching us. Definitely appreciate you. Glad you're home. Man, I'm glad you're home and enjoy this time with your family, and definitely appreciate you for chiming in tonight. So, without further ado, let's discuss the Hawks versus the Bucks game 4 recap. Obviously, the Hawks, in a weird fashion, they did take care of business. They won 110-88 without Trae Young, and then also the injury that was sustained by Giannis, which at this point is no structural damage. So thank goodness that, because it looked a little sketchy.
It looked bad. I mean, the way he landed.
It looked, yeah, because
it looked like it was an ACL.
Yeah, because we were all saying like, oh my God, like everybody, we were like praying, prayers up for him and prayers up for Giannis. And luckily, no structural damage. Likely he might be doubtful for game 5. So Gabe, on your thoughts on last night's Hawks versus Bucks game.
I'm going to start off by let's give kudos to head coach Nate McMillan. Now, I know, the players went out and executed, but you got to give Nate McMillan some credit. I mean, like I say, that interim tag should have already done came off by now. And he should be head coach. I mean, he can't. I mean, first of all, let's give him kudos for two things. First of all, Trae Young wasn't 100%. Instead of rushing to get him out there, he said, you're going to sit out this game. Because we all know that if he went out there and made the injury worse, and we all in podcast land and sports talk media, I mean everybody like Stephen A, Skip and Shannon, I mean the sports talk radio, and all of us in the podcast sphere, including both us tonight, would be killing Nate McMillan if Trae Young had played last night with less than 50% and he suffered a worse injury, almost similar to what happened to Kevin Durant and during his last season with the Warriors.
Yep.
Like what happened to Anthony Davis, with my Lakers, playing in Game 6 when he had no business playing. So you got to give Nate McMillan and the Atlanta Hawks staff to say, we need you to sit out this game. Now, we also give him credit for is the simple fact that he came up with an excellent game plan. I mean, he knew he didn't have no Trae Young. I mean, he put in Lou Williams, and Lou Williams is no slouch because, I mean, this was the former Sixth Man of the Year a couple of years ago. I mean, after they traded him to the Clippers, I mean, we haven't even heard of him for a while until this last night. And he showed that he's still a scorer because we all know Lou Williams on any other squad would be a starter. So and then not only he led the way with 21 points. You had Bodan Bogdanovic, I think I'm saying that right. He had 20, and you had Kevin Huerter and Clint Capella each had 15 points. And then you have Cam Reddish coming off the bench with 12. I mean, we ain't heard from Cam Reddish since Duke.
Pretty much. You're right about that, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he came out and contributed. And, of course, Gallinano Garnari, he had 10 points. So this was a total team effort. And you got to give kudos to Nate McMillan for coming up with a game plan.
Yeah, big time. And the great thing about this, kind of to piggyback on Charles Barkley point, where it just in this, we talk, very highly on Atlanta, but let's talk about the Bucks, where it's just like you look at a situation where, I mean, it was in their hand. You look at they could have, went to that series up 3-1, and pretty much Atlanta would have, tomorrow night would have been an elimination game for Atlanta. And then you even look at like what PJ Tucker was saying, they were like, well, we thought we was going to get it. But like, even if you listen to Charles Barkley in the beginning where he said, look, this should be a first quarter game. We know that the crowd is going to be up. The crowd is going to be lively. Just survive that first quarter because you're better than them. Just survive that first quarter. But that first quarter turned into domination in the second, third, and fourth quarters. And Milwaukee, they're another team where you just for some bizarre reason, you can't put your finger on what's really wrong. Where you look at the situation where this was a perfect opportunity to steal this game. And they just didn't capitalize on it. And it's going to be, like you said, we talked about the adjustments for Nate McMillan. The adjustments for Budenholzer was just laughable at this point. Because I mean, that was a situation, like you said, that would have been. It's like you had Lou Will. Like Lou Will came out of nowhere, essentially, in essence, to put up what he had 21 points. Even though, like you said, he was a former sixth man of the year, and he was doing a little bit of stuff here and there for Atlanta, but he stepped up big in the time he's in game 4. But I mean, you look at this Milwaukee where it's just like Giannis not gonna play probably in game 5. So you're looking at it from the standpoint of, could they get this win? Like, because to me, I think you bring in if he's able to play. The thing is, they need to play. They essentially, the best thing I think what they need to do is try to close the series out on what is it? Tomorrow's Thursday. Try to finish it out on Saturday. At least you give yourself about a week. Well, you give yourself generally, I would say about 5 solid days in between game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Right.
You got to close this out. Because to me, I just look at it just from that standpoint of, because you really, like you said, even to bring up your point about could he re-aggravate that injury potentially? So you want to try to see if you can win this series without him. Game 5 is imperative. I think the only time you will put him in is if you're down. Like say, for instance, they lose on tomorrow, and then game 6 they're down 3-2. You might bring him in or what have you, or potentially game 7. I like it's gotta. They have to do something with that. Like, so to me, it's like you want to try to get Giannis well rested so he'll be ready in the event if you guys do play game 1, which will be next Thursday. You'll be ready.
Right. Well, this is part of the reason why on my last podcast I actually went out on a limb and picked the upset and picked the Atlanta Hawks to beat the Milwaukee Bucks, because Milwaukee, they can't be trusted. I mean, this proves it right here. I mean, personally, I believe they underestimated the Hawks. They figured, well, Trae Young is not going to be there, so this is going to be a cakewalk.
Yep.
And then come to find out, I mean, Atlanta came out there and came to play. They're like, y'all can take us lightly all you want, but they got shown. Yep. I mean, so I just kind of think Milwaukee. I mean, if they lose this series, it's gonna be this game that they lost it. I mean, I understand. Giannis getting hurt. That's unfortunate, but let's keep it a buck. They weren't doing anything when he was out there. Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday was shooting poorly from the field. So, whether he has stayed and played the whole game or not, I don't think they would have won that game. So this is the game right here. I think if they lose this series, whether it's in game 6, game 7, which I'm predicting 7,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be the fact that they had a chance to go up 3-1, put the boot on their neck, and they didn't do so. It's almost similar to like if I know this is a little off topic, but if the Phoenix Suns don't close out the Clippers tonight and has to go to game 7 and lose that series, they lose it in game 5. They lose it the other night by not. They had their boot on the neck, 3 games to 1, and they didn't close them out.
Yep, and I agree with you. That's like you said. It comes to that point where, and even to Phoenix's point, if they don't win tonight, Friday's going to be a little dicey because, it could be a situation. Could Kawhi come back potentially?
Possibly, yeah. Because
right.
And like Shannon said on Undisputed, if they lose this series, this will be Chris Paul's worst defeat. I mean, it'll be devastating. Now, and now getting back to Milwaukee, I personally believe if they lose this series, I think they'll be looking for a new coach.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, even if, and this would be hypothetical, if even in a situation if Trae misses extra time, like if he doesn't, and they win this series, and say, for instance, Trae Young misses 2 or 3 games out of the series, he's done. Because at this point, the road has been paid for you. Because honestly, we look at Philly. Philly was supposed to be the one that really was supposed to be in this position, in theory. And then you look at how they got there. They got there without playing a Brooklyn team without a healthy Kyrie, James Harden pretty much on one leg with a hamstring injury, and pretty much you were 4 or 5 centimeters away from losing that game. If Kevin Durant didn't shoot that, if he didn't shoot from below that arc
line, basically,
then it's a different story.
Yeah, if he didn't put his foot
right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
right.
I'm just like, that's what I say. That's why Atlanta, the Hawks upset this upset the Bucks, because the Bucks can't be trusted. I mean, just like the Clippers, they can't be trusted. That's what I'm saying. So as I say, they're gonna be looking for a new coach if they lose this series. And I think they probably need to look for a new coach.
Yeah, because he'll probably get fired the moment they get eliminated.
Oh yeah, as soon as he gets eliminated, I mean he's out the door. I mean, it's just that simple. Because I mean, and as for Giannis, I mean, I kind of think that, I mean, he's not playing in Game 5. Let's just already put that out there.
Yeah,
he's not playing. He's not playing.
No,
I personally don't think he's going to be playing in Game 6 either. I mean, I understand they say hyperextension, and things like that, and there's no ligament damage, so that's a good sign. But I don't see him playing the next 2 games. I mean,
you're right.
I'm surprised if he plays Game 6, but he's not playing tomorrow night, so we usually go ahead and just get that out there.
Nah, not at all, because he's doubtful. So if he's doubtful today, he's definitely gonna be doubtful for tomorrow. But
you always got to understand the injuries is that anytime you hear, I mean, questionable, you're probably gonna play. Most likely,
doubtful.
You're not doubtful. You're not playing.
He ain't playing. That's just like nah. I mean, it's pretty much a nah. But and I hope, like in that case we talked about earlier, where they don't rush him back, like we said, if it's a situation where they face an elimination on Saturday, will they bring him in? Which we hope not, but here to say. But I mean, like.
But the simple fact is, if he's healthy, you ain't putting him out there, because Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday just need and Lopez, they just need to step their games up. It's just that simple. They need to just take a cue from what Atlanta did last night. I mean, they went here and they had a game plan. Like I said, the rest of the guys stepped their games up. And you know what? Look at it this way with the Hawks. Yeah. If Trae Young's is not 100% for tomorrow's night game, I think the fact that they won and tied this series gives them leeway to say, Trae Young, you know what? We still don't think you're ready to play. We'll set you out for Game 5, and then get you ready for Game 6. So I think this because I mean, what this will show that this team can win without him. So that would mean that they should be going in Game 5 with some confidence in the event that Trae Young is not available for Game 5.
Big time, big time. And huge shout out to our guy, Mo Gotti, Bucks Talk. Hey, yes, indeed.
Well,
So,
like I said, it
yeah,
can't be tested.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little Scottie Pippen, Gabe. All right. So okay. So how does what had happened was this. So Scottie Pippen went on to Dan Patrick's show. And Dan Patrick asked him a question. It was regarding an article that was in the GQ magazine where Scottie Pippen discussed the situation of the 1994 playoff series versus the Knicks, where Tony Kukoc got the last shot, and we know that Scottie Pippen refused, to enter the game in that situation, and he pretty much said that Phil Jackson was a racist. So I want to get your thoughts on that for you, Gabe. What's your thoughts on Scottie Pippen?
Well, I tell you, in today's society, people say anything just to sell books. I mean, it's just that simple.
Yep.
Now, with that being said, I mean, Scottie Pippen is coming across as someone who's just bitter.
Yep.
I mean, that's the way I look at it. He's bitter. I mean, look, the year that Michael Jordan retired, I mean, now I'll make this. I kind of understand it to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, he was a leading scorer, I mean, for the Bulls that year. I mean, he was averaging, 22 points. He was averaging like 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. I mean, he was the leading scorer. And I guess in his mind, he figured, well, the last 3, I was a contributor to the last 3 championships that the Bulls won.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. But here's the thing: Tony Kukoc had 3 game-winning shots. I mean, that same year. I mean, this was Tony Kukoc's rookie year, and he had 3 game-winning baskets. So Phil Jackson decided, well, this guy's won 3 games for me. Why don't I drop a play to see if he can win a 4th game for me? And basically, Phil the Zen Master Jackson was validated because Tony Kukoc hit the shot that won the game. Because he doesn't hit that shot, hey, they're down 3-0 in the semifinals, and on the way of possibly getting swept.
Yep.
So Pippen's sitting out that last minute just because he didn't get a chance. Phil Jackson didn't drop the play for him. I mean, that's not being a team player. I mean, he was just basically pouting. Now, to say that Phil Jackson is a racist, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, like I say, obviously he's trying to sell this book. I mean, because think about it. I mean, if the late Kobe Bryant was around, you think he would say, I mean, after Phil Jackson, that last season wrote a book criticizing him heavily, but yet he embraced Phil Jackson returning to the Lakers, and he won 2 more championships, much to my liking as a Laker fan. So, I mean, like I say, so Scottie, I understand what he's saying, but to call a man a racist, that's just ridiculous. Like I say, he's just trying to sell a book.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing too, where I have to give him a pass because just everything, like you said, promoting the book, promoting the bourbon. So, you look at that, well, maybe he just want to, say something kind of outlandish to kind of, it's a funnel. It's a funnel to kind of essentially, hey, I got a bourbon and I got a memoir, but I'm gonna have this little catchy, I'm gonna have this buzz going around what I'm promoting, and then also, with the death of his son, just 2 months ago. So as far as just being in his, as far, so I'm gonna give him a pass on that. But on the surface, the thing about calling someone a racist, in a sense, it's almost like it has to be proof. Like the evidence that he showed about the situation with Tony Kukoc doesn't make that particular circumstance. Now, and I might bring up some points momentarily about what he could have possibly used to kind of argue his point or bring his point home. But the situation of what he conveyed to us, the situation with the Tony Kukoc shot, you got to think about it. The two previous possessions in that game, he missed those. So as a coach, he had to, as Phil Jackson as a coach, had to make an adjustment to say, hey, do I give Scottie the ball the third time? Will he screw it up again? Or do I give it to, like you said, Tony Kukoc, who has came up to us in a clutch in various times during the season? Like, do I, and that's what I would call a coach's decision. And that's based on judgment, not by the color of your skin or by a certain feeling. Now, Phil, to his credit, he has said certain things that have rubbed me the wrong way. Two examples, which I didn't even know this until today, about Robert Horry. So Robert Horry had a situation, bring the Laker point home, bringing it to the Lakers, where he pretty much was in a huddle and he was talking to Robert Horry and said, "You need to know the sound of your master's voice." And Robert Horry was like, whoa.
I didn't hear about that one.
I'm from the South. Like, we don't play that type of stuff.
I live in the South, so hey.
right. That's what Robert Horry, because he from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's what he was saying. And even in that, they talked about it, but he said Phil didn't mean it in that particular way. They squashed it, but he even said to that point where Phil, in his personal opinion, is a racist. And even to kind of go back to Scottie's point, where I can't necessarily say if he feels that way. It might be other examples that he may feel that way, but he didn't convey those type of situations. Like if you had a Robert Horry situation, now that would have raised some eyebrows to me more so than not passing the ball to him after he missed two shots. And even Robert Horry, to his credit, said, "Hey, well, I don't think he's racist, but he has said something. His certain tones that he has said to us in the huddle, and they was able to he checked them at the door with that." And then the other one was the whole LeBron James posse thing.
Yeah, that I do remember.
I didn't like that. I just think
I didn't care for that either.
I didn't care for that either.
But here's another thing. I mean, like I said, those if one of these other guys was writing that book and he could use that as example, that would probably be the example. But see, what Scottie Pippen is, I mean, this particular incident wasn't racial. This was situational basketball. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, the situation called for a guy who's been clutch for me 3 times during the regular season.
Exactly.
That's all that was. I mean, it's situational basketball. It's just that you go with a guy that you know has a better chance of hitting a shot over a guy who has not proven to be clutch. Even though he was a leading scorer during the regular season, he still wasn't clutch when it came through.
Right.
I mean, so I just look at. I mean, and of course, Scottie's still also upset about how he was portrayed in The Last Dance. So so it's just a guy he's bitter. I mean, he's angry. Yeah. And he figure, like I say, anytime you call somebody a racist, I mean that's gonna generate a lot of buzz.
Yeah, big time. And that's the thing when you look at it, and then and that's my thing. And I understand like with it could be interpreted that way. But you have to give us an example. Like you got to be like with that, and like you said, and it stems back to the whole Last Dance thing where like you said, because even when he was saying in the argument about I was here since 1987, I did this, I felt disrespected, I've been through all these years, and it's my first year without MJ. This is my time to shine, and in that type of moment, that's the biggest game of that season at that point. But I mean. Yeah, and even to the point where I don't understand why. Essentially, I don't get it, but I mean, as far as just that whole situation where it's just like what you just described isn't racist. It's a basketball decision. It has nothing to do with color, and like you said, it's the whole field, the whole posse thing. That's where I think the whole like. He has said thing is even I think there was a situation I think like in the late 90s. I think he might have been with y'all. I think potentially where he was saying how it's hard to get the modern athlete to kind of focus because of just their attention span and what have you, and just saying how certain music influences that type of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talked about the dress code back in the early 2000s and saying how, you know, these guys sometimes look like, you know, they had like prison outfits. I forgot to the extent of it, but something of that nature. And then going back to the posse thing where, like you said, I didn't like that either, because the simple fact of normal circumstances, you wouldn't call a guy who his owner and then an executive producer for things as your posse. Like, they're not just like, when I think of posse, I think of people around it that don't do nothing. They ain't doing nothing. They just like just people that's just hanging around. But these are like powerful people. Now you look at even back then, Rich Paul, you know, was doing his thing, and then also who also was in that? I think Randy Mims, I think he was in that, and all the LeBron James guys, he could consider them as a posse, which I just thought that was kind of out of bounds for just the simple fact of these guys aren't just like eating off of LeBron James per se. They're not just they are part of his team. They're an integral part of their team, and they're integral parts in their own fields. So they're not just guys who are like, I would be like what you would call like a leech. They're not leeches.
Exactly. I mean, these are guys that, you know, they're in LeBron's circle, you know, with his business dealings and things like that. I mean, these are not just guys who are just hanging around LeBron because he has a lot of money. I mean, one thing you can say what you will about LeBron, but LeBron is an excellent businessman. I mean, he has a lot of good people around him. So, see, one of the reasons why, you know, like a lot of athletes, whether it's football or basketball, that they go broke is because they have the wrong people around them who misuse their money and things like that. And then next thing you know, they're left with pennies. I mean, let's get back to Scottie. Scottie's actually broke.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Scottie's broke.
Yeah,
I mean,
big time.
He squandered a lot of his wealth. So, I mean, so him trying to sell this book, I mean, it's also a way for him to, you know, try to get some millions back that, you know, that he lost.
Yeah, big time. And that's the biggest issue, I think. Like you said, it just stems back to, and I understand like what he's doing, the media machine behind it, because obviously, if he didn't say that, we probably wouldn't be talking about Scottie Pippen.
His book would be just like, okay. I mean, he say he wrote a book. Okay,
right.
He wrote a book.
Right.
You know? Well, I mean, whether I read it or not.
Yeah.
That's all.
And we understand he's doing his promotion thing, and also just, you know, and hope he's in a good mind space. Everything that's happened to him this year, definitely with the loss of his son.
You do feel for him, though. I mean, he lost his son. I mean, you really do feel for him. But you know, at the same time, you know, if you're gonna make a charge like that, you know, you gotta present some proof that, you know, that can't be picked apart.
Right. Like we have essentially. So definitely huge shout out to Scottie, man. We still love you despite our disagreements, but we still love you, Scottie. So.
Well, I like Scottie too, but like I say, he beat my Lakers in 91, and I got to get Scottie. He neutralized Magic Johnson, so I'm still a little salty about that. So.
Man, that was 30 years ago, man. Get over that.
That
was 30 years ago, man. I mean, let it go.
I'm just that was the you know, them beating my Lakers for that championship. You had all these Bull bandwagon fans come out of woodwork. Everybody was a Bulls fan until they all fell apart. So
we still here. Yeah. Billy Donovan gonna ride the ship. We got an Olympian in the fold and Zach LaVine. We're gonna be all right. we got our first round pick already in Vucevic. We're gonna be good.
Well, we'll see. The Bulls haven't done anything since Derrick Rose. So
hey, we'll be back though. Hey, it's only a matter of time. We get it together. We got faith in Billy Donovan. He gonna do his thing. We definitely we're gonna be back. Trust me, we'll be back. We'll be back in the Eastern Conference fold. Trust me, you know.
Maybe another 5 years, probably.
I don't know. I don't know. I think probably in the next few years, probably in the next, potentially maybe this year, potentially. I think that if if they get their chemistry together, I think that was the biggest thing of acquiring Vucevic so like kind of late in the trade deadline, even though it kind of hurt them, after the trade. But then I think once they kind of get themselves together, some continuity, guys get better, like Patrick Williams. I think he's going to do his thing. I think he's going to be a stud in this league. I think he could be the next. He could be the next potential next Kawhi Leonard in this league. Potentially the next kind of a versatile kind of guy. Almost not saying like a Jimmy Butler like, but more so like how Jimmy was a project coming in, and then he morphed into pretty much a top 25 player in this league. Potentially, that's how I look at it from that, not from a basketball standpoint, but not from a game standpoint, but more so of just how I think he's going to be like a guy that is a project coming in and could become a star in this league. Not a star, but more so a guy, an all-star caliber kind of player potentially in Patrick Williams. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Like I say, the East, because the East has actually gotten a little bit better than it in recent years. So I mean, this would be a good time for them to try to come up. I mean, because the only thing they got now is, like I say, all they have is Philadelphia. I mean, if Ben Simmons can ever get a jump shot, but that's another story. Milwaukee's probably be there, whether they, how they fare in this playoffs or not. I mean, they're still going to be there, and I mean, so the Bulls might. I mean, if they get the right coach and the right players around them, because they've had so much bad coaching over the past few years, and that's part of the reason why they've been out of the spotlight.
Yeah, but they should be okay. The only thing I really worry about is that, I mean, our division is kind of stacked. When you got Milwaukee in that division, you got, I think Indiana's gonna be back now with Rick Carlisle there. I think he's gonna get the best out of Sabonis, Karis LeVert, and then even you look at like Detroit, Cleveland, and then you look at Detroit. Detroit might be potentially have a backcourt of Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham, so that's going to be definitely intriguing in the Central Division. So, it's going to be a very, very interesting year next year for my Bulls, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking about the East. Let's go a little west. Let's talk about Dame Lillard, man. So, I found it really interesting with this whole Dame Lillard situation, where people are literally upset at the hire of Chauncey Billups, and people are blaming him, and then people are going at his throat for this. And I'm thinking to myself, he's your best player. He's on the fringe. He's frustrated with management. He's frustrated with his team. And you could add fuel by the fire by criticizing him for a hire of Chauncey Billups. So my question is, what's Dame Lillard's future? Will he be in Portland next season?
I think he will be. I think he will be, because, put it this way, I mean, fans are just mad. They're mad right now, but when Dame gets on that field, all will be forgotten. And besides, Chauncey Billups wouldn't have taken this job if Dame Lillard was not going to be there. I mean, who would? I mean, Chauncey Billups knows that, if Dame ain't on that team, then he's gonna have struggles.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I don't see Dame, wanting out, because I mean, Dame's been loyal. I mean, even though at the end of the when they were eliminated, he did express his frustration. I mean, basically, I'm quoting one of Nipsey Hussle's lyrics when he's like, "Should I keep trying?" I think I said it right. I can't remember it off the top of my head right at this point, but Dame Lillard's not going nowhere. I mean, he's gonna be right there, because Chauncey, and then I'm Chauncey Billups. I mean, I'm putting on a full blitz. And I'm making sure to convince Dame that he has a plan to build them, a championship team, because that's all Dame wants. I mean, Dame's tired of going home early. I mean, all you see is first round exits. He's getting ready for summer vacation in April. So So, but my thing with Dame needs to do, Dame not only needs to go to the coach, but he needs to go to management and figure out to find out what the plan is going forward. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, he really needs a real number two. I mean, I'm not saying CJ McCullough's not a good player.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Only in the regular season. In the playoffs, they're not a great 1-2. So I kind of think. I mean, I'm not saying they should trade McCullough, but they need to look at maybe getting somebody comparable. I mean, that can be a good second player, not only just in the regular season but in the playoffs. Because it's not enough to be a regular season guy. I mean, a regular season team, and yet you get in the playoffs and you're all you see is first round exits. I mean, he's starting to look like Kevin Garnett in his first 7 seasons when he was in Minnesota. I mean, Kevin Garnett couldn't sniff a second round playoff with the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's why when he had a chance to get out of there, he was gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only thing there's only one season has kept Dame Lillard from being the Tracy McGrady of this era, and that's the 1 year they did go to the Western Conference Finals, and of course they got beat by Golden State.
Right.
So with Dame, but Dame's gonna be in Portland. I mean, I don't see him going nowhere, and I mean the Portland Trailblazers would be crazy to let him walk. I mean, all these fans that are, crapping on him right now, I guarantee they'll be up in arms if Dame Lillard is out of Portland, if the management were to trade him.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, where I think, like you said, the Chauncey Billups, because it was weird because when Jason Kidd didn't take that trade, I mean, he didn't take that offer to Portland. That's when I was like, all right, something's wrong. Like, because remember, he didn't take that job. He didn't take the job in Portland. Right. But then, like you said, now Chauncey Billups in the fold, I'm a little bit more confident. If I had a percentage of Dame leaving Portland after Jason Kidd turned that deal down, I was like, baby, 80%. Chauncey is now, I think with Chauncey now being the head coach, I look at it maybe about 20% that he will leave. And like you said, it's just to a point where I think, like you said, Chauncey Billups, he doesn't take that job if he don't have, he doesn't have him, because he already knows if I don't have Dame Lillard, I'm done. Like I'm at least good for a few years versus, a rebuild potential if he stays, because that's essentially, if Dame leaves, it would be a rebuilding situation where, and the West is already like stacked.
Yeah, last place. The West is the last place you want to be rebuilding right now.
Right.
Because I mean, just the injury flu hit a lot of teams like Lakers, and it hit the Denver Nuggets with Jamal Murray. Yep. I mean, and Utah. I mean, what's his name again? Mike Conley.
Mike Conley. Yep, he got hurt.
So, I mean, and of course, Kawhi Leonard getting hurt. So. The West is the last place you want to be rebuilding at this time. So, I mean, if they trade Dame Lillard, I mean, Chauncey Billups is basically going to be rebuilding. I mean, McCullough, I don't think he's a solid number one. I mean, and Carmelo Anthony is at the tail end of his career. So, he's not going to give you much coming off the bench.
Yeah, so, big time.
So, I'm just going to, but yeah, I actually think, there was talk that, Mike D'Antoni was on that list along with Becky Hammond. I think if Mike D'Antoni gets the job, Dame's out. Dame would be out. Yeah. And I wouldn't blame him.
But like you said, I think the Chauncey Billups thing definitely helped his case to stay in Portland. I think, like you said, he doesn't take the job if Dame isn't in the future plans of this team. So, most definitely. Yeah. So let's turn the focus, no pun intended, to football, where so the Pro Football Focus had their top 50 list of players going into this upcoming NFL season. Have you so your thoughts on just this Pro Football Focus list? Is it any, just the overall thoughts? Was there any guy that you looked at was too low, too high, or was it just right? And then Aaron Donald being the number one player, in the Pro Football Focus list of top 50?
I think overall the list is good. I mean, I think they got it right for most of the players on that list that were good. Now, as far as highs and lows, now I have to admit I'm a little surprised that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers weren't in the top 2.
Right.
I mean, think about it. I mean, Tom Brady is the GOAT. We know that. But Aaron Rodgers had his best season. I mean, probably one of the best seasons of any quarterback in the NFL last season. I mean, he had over 45 touchdowns and only 5 picks. Now I'm starting to think this list was punishing him for having not winning that NFC Championship game. I mean, but think about it, and maybe that's the same thing with Tom Brady. Even though he had a big time Super Bowl, I mean, he didn't have a great NFC Championship game. Now, I mean, I get it, Aaron Donald. I mean, he's basically the best defensive player in this league right now. I mean, basically almost unstoppable. But only to put on those guys, I think 7 was Tom Brady and 10 was Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
That one kind of surprised me.
Yes, matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up that list. You know who really, really shocked me too? Like that Tom Brady was 7 was very interesting, and I love Pro Football Focus. I honestly think, without a shadow of a doubt, I think they're the best when it comes to covering football. I think to me, it's really rooted in football. It's not agendas. It's not like biases. I think they get it right when it comes to player evaluations, certain rankings, especially in positional rankings, definitely. Like you said, the number one was the Tom Brady. I thought that was very interesting. That he was 7. Actually, who was 3rd shocked me. Travis Kelce. I was shocked.
Yeah,
I was shocked. I figured he might have cracked maybe the possibly top 10 at the low end, maybe like 9th or 10th. I mean, don't get me wrong. He had an all-pro season. I mean, he had wide receiver type numbers. I think he had about almost 1,500 receiving last year.
Right.
But 3rd, I was like is the Aaron right. And that was kind of the thing that really shocked me with that. And the thing I like about Pro Football Focus is, like, when you look at these type of lists, it's really just shows you the value of positions that people don't deem as sexy. I'm not gonna front. I love my offensive line. I love that. I'm glad that they did show Quentin Nelson some love, but at 4, that was a little.
That's a little high for.
I thought that was very interesting, but like you said, as far as the Aaron Donald, they got it right. I think he's a guy, when you just look at, he's a guy that you fear. I mean, as far as on the offense, kind of bring it home. Yeah,
he's one of those guys that almost almost similar to Lawrence Taylor was right. One guy that fear. I mean, but Aaron Donald's that guy that you game plan around. I mean, every offensive line, every offensive coordinator is always finding ways to try to neutralize Aaron Donald. So, and here's one that kind of got me. I mean, they put Derrick Henry at 12.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I think Derrick Henry's a good back, but Derrick Henry basically is just give him the ball and let him run over. I mean, he's not the best receiving running back in the league. I mean, another one that got me was Alvin Kamara was at 36. I'm like, this guy was one of the best all-purpose backs in this league. I mean, and you're gonna put him at 36,
right? And
then they got Michael Thomas at 44. I'm like, Michael Thomas? I mean, I get it. He only had 1 touchdown last year, and
right
injuries. But you got to be kidding me. I mean, this guy. I mean, he's putting up Antonio Brown-like numbers for the past 3 seasons. And I'm not saying he should I mean, I wouldn't put him over DeAndre Hopkins or anybody like that. Or there was another receiver that was in the top in the top 5 or 10, I believe.
Devontae Adams was 5.
I mean, I wouldn't
was
put
5.
I mean, I would put him. I actually would put him third behind Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. So I mean, the fact that I wouldn't put him like I'd probably put him at least in the top 30, but 44. I think that's a little bit low. Oh, here's another one. Russell Wilson was at 22.
Bro, I was going to say the same thing. All right.
I mean, Russell Wilson, the first half of the season, he was the MVP.
Right.
I mean, I get it. Seattle does what Seattle does. They start off good, and then all of a sudden, they start, teetering and things like that. But they're in the playoffs you take Russell Wilson off the Seahawks, and they're a lottery pick.
And and trust me, I love Russell Wilson. Shout out to Russell Wilson, 2-time Richmond Town Dispatch Player of the Year, respectfully. But for him to be 22, I thought that was a reach. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Who should have been in that spot potentially? Josh Allen.
He's 40.
He's 40. And I'm like, he's 40? Like, he's the second best quarterback in this league. Like, and he's 40?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say silly. I can arguably say I may went a little bit off the deep end saying he's the second best, but he's in that tier. Like, he's probably about the third or fourth best quarterback in this league. For him to be put as 40 is interesting, to say the least.
That's crazy. I mean, 40.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'll tell you one that kind of. I mean, they had Ramsey and Hopkins at 16 and 17 respectively.
Right.
I think I would have swapped it.
Right.
I mean, we all know DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, is that dude? I mean,
right.
Like I said, we all know if Deshaun Watson still had him in Houston, they're not 4-12. I mean, it's simple. I mean, Kyler Murray got himself. A toy when he got DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, now it's they need a coach that can help put that together. But Ramsey being 7, I think it should have been Hopkins 16 and Ramsey 17. Because Ramsey's he's that guy that can cover anybody, but Ramsey does have a tendency to blow plays. So. I kind of think that was kind of, I would have swapped those two, and that was in that position. But and of course, my man George Kittle's in the top 10. I was kind of surprised by that. Yeah. Which I mean, we all know if he wasn't hurt and we had some better quarterback play, he's top 5.
Yeah, and your San Francisco 49ers there are a lot of guys on that list.
Yeah, Fred Warner definitely deserved to be on that list.
Yeah,
Fred Warner. He's basically, he's the 49ers best linebacker since Patrick Willis.
Yeah,
he definitely. And I hope. He gets his money because he deserves it. And Nick Bosa. He's right. Injury. Cut his season short. So I think if these guys stay healthy this year, they'll be in the top 20, respectively, in the following year.
Yeah,
I totally believe that.
Because then my boy cracked the list, didn't he? Trent Williams, didn't he crack the list? Because he was. I think he was. I'm gonna just look back. I want to say he was on this list, if my memory serves correct. I think he was in the 30s potentially. But another one that had me shocked. Honestly, Dak Prescott,
50.
Yeah,
wow.
I know. It was
like you punish a guy because he had a knee injury. Less. Everybody they must have even paid attention what Dak Prescott was doing prior.
Right. That's another thing. I'm like, even though I am a Washington football guy,
I
was shocked because, like you said, because You guys, even though if we're gonna look at it, and like we're gonna just look at it from the statistical facts. I mean, he was about to have almost a 5,000 yard passing season. I mean, honestly, if he wouldn't have got hurt because that defense was so atrocious, they would have been playing behind the whole entire year. He'd have been slinging that football the whole entire time. I mean, he would have, because you sit down, and you really think about it, he could have potentially had an MVP like year last year, because you think about it, that team was 6-10. They were 6-10. They were one game short of course, the champion, the Washington football team. But like you said, you would have thought like Dak could at least get you about 4 or 5 games and potentially 11-5, 10-6 type of season, which I think probably would have potentially garnered at least some votes for that. Like you said, for him to be in the 50, I was like, that's really interesting of that cutoff at him at 50.
It seemed like they were punishing him for getting hurt.
Right.
That's what it comes across to me, because, as I say, prior to him getting hurt, he was putting up 500 yards a game. And of course,
exactly.
I mean, it's not a good thing, because he was putting up those yards because their defense couldn't stop a cold. So I mean,
exactly.
So I I gotta think that was a little bit very low. I mean, I think he's gonna have a big year. I honestly think everything's set up for him to have a big year. As long as there's no injuries, they're gonna have a big year.
Yeah, and I mean, it was very, very interesting with that. The list is intriguing to say the least. But yeah, the quarterbacks are a little. I think So Trent Williams was 24th. Trent Williams was 24th.
Okay, yeah,
and I didn't figure he was in that spot, but I had to double check. But yeah, the quarterbacks are a little iffy on this one, but I think for the most part they did get it right. And I like how you look at it's as far as how certain positions were slotted, but more so just the fact of letting people know that these tackles that we got, these guards, these safeties, they're legit as well. Like everybody put on that list, are very vital in that situation. I think the only issue is going to be the quarterbacks. I think the quarterbacks are kind of slotted in such a weird way, which, like I said, I think it starts from the top. I think not top, but second to the top in Tom Brady. And I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, you putting Patrick Mahomes at number 2 is very. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, but still, I mean, the court. I mean, and because they didn't have a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, really on this list. I mean, like you said, they had the right quarterbacks on the list, but they didn't have a lot of them on there. They didn't the quarterbacks didn't dominate. I mean, they had Khalil Mack, I think, in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, Khalil Mack is 6. Yep.
I mean, yeah. But another one, I mean, I kind of think they kind of ranked Myles Garrett where he was ranked.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of think that I'm not. I mean, he had a decent year, but I mean, I'm still. You still got to show me more. I got to see more. I mean, I kind of think that he was a little bit high. I mean, for his ranking, I think he should have been a little bit lower.
Yeah, big time. And actually, I'm perusing that list once again. I'm checking. Got the list and I'm checking it twice. Mm-hmm. There is an omission on here, which, luckily for the 4th or 5th time that I've seen it, there is no Lamar Jackson.
Why I know, right?
I was like, are you kidding me? The youngest MVP in NFL history, 2 years removed from that, and he's not in the top 50 list. I'm telling you.
I think the reason, my opinion, I think the reason they put him on that list is because, I'm thinking there's still, I mean, the Lamar Jackson still has to, I mean, the next phase in his development is the passer. Now, I think he might be getting punished for not being that accurate passer as of yet.
Right.
So I think that's probably why they left him off that list. Once he gets going, I mean, he's basically maybe the most next to Patrick Mahomes he may be the second most unstoppable quarterback,
right?
In the league, and I mean in the league, if once he gets that going.
Yeah, and I'm really shocked that he's not on this list, to be honest with you. Like you
Right.
say, they might give him a pass, even though despite, because I mean, I know he didn't have the best numbers last year, and then also the MVP year is 2 years removed from us. But in the same token, I'm really shocked that he's not on this list.
You know what else is not on that list that probably could have cracked it? Kyler Murray's not even on that list.
Right. But that's the thing. Right, because and that's another thing too, where you look at, and also another guy who I think got omitted from the list, and pardon my bias, Chase Young. I know he's young. I mean, I know he a rookie, but I mean, hey, there were no Washington football team selections on this, and I'm a little upset about that.
Yeah, Trey Young should have. I probably would have.
Chase Young, yeah.
Miles Garrett off of that list and put Trey Young on his spot.
Chase,
yeah. I would have took Miles Garrett off of that list and put Trey Young on that. I mean Chase Young on that list because what he did. He was balling out. I mean, basically, the Washington football team. The reason they were in the playoffs is because of their defense.
Right. And and because this is more so of coming into the 2021 season. So to me, I mean, you might potentially have the number one defense in the National Football League. You would assume that maybe one of the guys could potentially be on the list. But I digress with my point. I always hammer the Washington football team hard in any of my debates. That's my unapologetic Washington football fan here, and with my irrational confidence.
Right.
So don't mind me. Yeah.
It's all good, but that was one guy they shouldn't have left off the list. I mean, that's man.
Yeah, big time, and man. So definitely the list.
That's funny.
Hey, it is what it is, but yeah, man. So, man, what a great show tonight, Gabe. And so let's put a ball on this week's Couch Coach Live, man. Any final thoughts, and also final thoughts on social media, and just promote, man, promote your show.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on your show. I mean, really appreciate it. My final thoughts is, I'll just start there. Like I say, the Suns. I predicted the Suns in 7, so in 6. I think the Suns are gonna go ahead and close it out tonight. So I'll go with that. But as far as of course, my podcast is Sports Takes Galore with Gabe, and of course you can pick it up on wherever you get your podcast from. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. And of course you can follow me on Twitter at GTSports13.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely appreciate you for coming on tonight, Gabe. And man, great show once again. Final thoughts, man. Once again, another great show. Actually thinking the Western Conference, I think we're gonna have a Game 7. I think it's gonna pull out again. I think playoff P gonna have another performance for the ages. Might put Chris Paul on skates again potentially. Hopefully.
I'm still sticking with the Atlanta Hawks. The pull off. They're gonna pull off. Because like I said, I truly believe that this would be a golden opportunity for the NBA if the Phoenix Suns plays the Atlanta Hawks. It's not a sexy finals matchup, but the NBA, if they're smart, if this matchup does occur, you have a chance to blow out the stars of tomorrow with this finals. Trae Young and Devin Booker.
And to me, I want to be devil's advocate. I want to see an NBA Finals in the Staples Center, and it's not the Lakers. So I'm hoping for that. I hope playoff P have the best 2 games of his life, and potentially having an NBA Finals in the Staples Center without the Los Angeles Lakers.
Well,
I want that to happen.
And I ain't rooting for no Clippers either. So.
But yeah, man, we can all hope playoff P come through in the clutch, man. We need to have an NBA Finals in Staples Center. We have to.
Well,
it's a must. It's a must.
Center, but I don't want to see the Clippers in it.
Hey, what that? Oh man, that would be so.
I want to see the Clippers in it. I mean,
and I hope Jared West is there every single night, and they show him every night at the Staples Center. Him and Steve Ballmer together.
Oh yeah, Steve Ballmer is basically he is what Mark Cuban is. I mean, he's basically Mark Cuban of the West Coast. I mean, he's talking about his team. He's there at every game. I mean, he cheers.
Yeah, I like Steve Ballmer. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
I still trip on that.
I still don't want to see him there. So hey.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, man. I'm rooting for it. We hoping we have have Clipper Nation in the NBA Finals, like Ballmer, Jared West, Billy Crystal, Frankie Muniz, like bring up Malcolm in the middle. Come on through for the NBA Finals potentially. So
it could happen. Yeah. But another thing I also want to see, another reason I want the Suns to get there is this is Chris Paul's possibly last chance to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. If this is the year Chris Paul gets to the finals, it's this year. I mean, it's wide open for him. I mean, if they don't get it this year, I don't think he's ever going to get to another NBA finals, because now everybody's going to come back next season fresh, healthier, and the Suns are going to have a tough time. So it's wide open for them tonight. So I believe, after I leave here, I'm going to go check out the game. So
yeah, so definitely once again, follow the podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on the Couch Coach Live. Also, check out the new show, my new show, Washington Football Guys, every Friday night, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. Me and my guy Rob Cruz will be talking Washington football on Friday nights. So yeah, definitely give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on the Washington Football Guys. Check us out. And without further ado, man, this has been this week's Couch Coach Live, man. We'll see you guys in July.
All right.
Peace.